Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra, a rare treat for you today. My friend Adam Winch from Defenders USA is in town, and so I'm like, dude, we gotta go make some videos. Today, I want him to talk to you about his experience in the ASP Instructor certification and how it's maybe a little different than others. New Bold Targets is now Throom. Throom targets are lightweight, weatherproof, take thousands of rounds of shooting and make shooting fun. Pick up a set for your next range trip. Dude, glad to see you.
Thanks for letting me come here. This is so cool to get out like this and tie in with you today.
You know, we're at C2. We're in the conference room at C2 in the 338 Club, my home range. And you are one of the inaugural graduates of the ASP Instructor certification.
Very first cohort.
But now, yeah, like the plank owners, right? Made it what it is today. And you obviously, that's not your first or your fifth instructor certification. So tell us a little bit about your background and how long you've been instructing before you showed up to that.
Okay, so background really started in the U.S. Army, right, as an MP. So did MP stuff, so a little bit of gun stuff. And from there I got immediately yanked because when I went into the military I was a little bit older than most. So I got immediately yanked and kind of turned into like the platoon leader and all sorts of things. So it seems
the old man. Anybody who's been in the military remembers this.
So it seems like I was teaching from the very beginning, right? So from there, once I got out, I became a squad leader, and so I was teaching in those areas too. Then later became a police officer in Colorado, in the Grand Junction area, so western Colorado, and did that for a while, and then later became an instructor in the police world, right, getting some instructor certification there. Then I started teaching gun stuff on the side as a cop, and was teaching to just all sorts of students, from churches to gyms to friends, things like that, and it just grew from there. So after that, once I took my company, Defenders USA, full time, I immediately ran off and got an NRA instructorship. Right?
That's what you got to do.
Yeah, the very basic thing.
What you have to do.
Yeah, and in Colorado, to teach concealed carry, the only one you can have is the NRA course.
Same here in Arizona.
So did that for a while. Then later ran off to another certification agency, went through a week-long instructor's course there. I guess has a pretty high failure rate, and I think I was one of, well, there was like 30% of the class that passed, so I passed that one. It was a pretty hard course. And then from there, moved into other different instructor certifications. Also kind of tied into some of the CrossFit instructor certifications because I enjoy that stuff. But later, then came to the ASP certification course.
So now, I just want to ask, why in the world, after all the instructor certifications you have, and I've been to a ton of gun school too, I've been to a ton of gun instructor classes, why in the world would you go, man, I got to get another one?
There's so much to learn, right? I mean, every time I'd go through some SWAT school with the PD, I would get humbled and find out there's so much I didn't know, right? All these different SWAT schools.
Mindset. He goes, I'm a learner.
I started paying out of my own pocket to go to different schools and training, you know, and here I was, cop, SWAT guy, everything like that, and I thought I was a gun guy. And every time I'd run off out of my own pocket and go to some instructor school or go to some gun school, I would just get humbled. And it blew my mind thinking I was the gun guy, right? I was the shooter. I was always one of the top shooters in my police department. And yet I found out over and over, I didn't know anything. So when all of a sudden the ASP thing showed up, I thought, you know what? There's some differences in mindset here. I'm still learning about this, but it seemed like a really good company for everything I'd seen online. You and I not hardly even met yet, and I just thought, you know, I can learn some stuff here. So when I enrolled into the ASP instructor cohort, I thought I was getting into something rather different than what it was. I thought I was just going to a gun instructor school.
Yeah, gun school, right? We've been to 100 of them.
I figured you were going to tell us here's how you have to do it. This is the ASP way. This is the John Korea way. You do this. You say this.
Reload, here's how you rip. Here's how you sight.
If you don't, you're out.
Yeah.
And it was completely different.
No shooting whatsoever.
No, it was so different. In fact, at first I thought this is just weird. Yeah.
So tell me about your experience. So it was very different because you show up and you register and we go, okay, here's a list of books to buy. Here's what our...
They're not gun books.
They're not gun books. Now it's not that I have any problem with that, but I figured you get that stuff from all these other instructor certifications.
Yes. Well, one, when it opened up, boom, I made sure I was the first person to register. I wanted to be the first one there. So I registered for it, and next thing you know, I get this email and some other correspondence saying I got to buy these 5 books. And I'm thinking, what? These are like college or master's level degree books. I just want to do shoot stuff.
Right. I just want to learn the shooting thing.
Things that go bang. And
I'll give you a hint. I'm not going to give you all of them, but we have everybody read a book called What the Best College Teachers Do.
Yeah.
And you go, I'm not going to be a college teacher. It's actually a very insightful book.
Well, you know, that one and two of the others were transformational for me. I honestly, I went into them skeptical. I didn't want to do it, but I decided to throw my heart and soul into it and just pull everything I could from it. And I'll tell you what, I was drinking from a fire hose, not just on the mental level, but figuring out how do I take all these little concepts and principles and reapply them into my students, and what does it need to do for my course. And all these courses that I've built, it completely changed a lot of my courses to where I had to go in and in some ways rewrite, in some other ways just rethink how I do this, because I didn't realize the impact of how I was teaching was on my students was either less efficient than it could be, or there were better ways to do this. In fact, there was one or two things I threw completely away after going through really the psychology of a lot of this.
And when he's talking about the psychology of learning, we really teach adult learning. We teach curriculum and design. We teach classroom management and range management. We teach all assessment and scope and sequence of coursing that coming out of the education world, as a guy who was a college professor for 9 years, part-time, that I just don't see in the firearms world.
No, and understand, as much schooling as I've had, I've never had any real schooling on how to teach people. Yes, some instructor certifications, but how to truly touch people. Not just impact them on how they physically do things, but on the mentality of things. So that was a completely different thought process to me. So the process of going through the cohort literally changed how I teach and approach a lot of things. And I found that as I saw the results of my students were learning better, faster. They were learning more efficiently, and everything they did, this sounds weird to put in the gun context, became more precise.
Yeah.
Not just bullets on paper or on target. I'm talking in their functions, in their movement, and even more precise in their thought process, because the stuff I learned forced me to open up my world and change, which allowed me to communicate this to my own people. And next thing you know, I saw my students who were doing really well growing in leaps and bounds I actually didn't expect.
Well, now, so talk to me. I know one of the major things that we do is this is a 6-month process. It's not short, and there are weekly WebEx meetings. We get together and we hang out. We talk about things, and I know some people are like, "Oh gosh, that seems like another meeting or whatever." Tell me about those cohort meetings that were at distance and what they were like for you.
So I was so busy at the time that when those first started up, I didn't hardly have time, and honestly, I didn't want to. I was too busy, and I didn't want to sit on some dumb video conference.
Yeah, who wants another meeting?
And just hear other people talk about stuff that I thought, eh. But at some point I realized, okay, I've got a free evening, I need to sit down and go through this, and I started doing it. And I was amazed how much I pulled from other people. Now, these were other students like me.
Yeah, other instructors.
Some of them far more advanced than me and others not as much so. And yet, in every one of those, I started taking notes and writing stuff down that I learned in those meetings. From every person in there, without fail, I pulled 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 things that I'd never heard of, never thought of, never even considered, and it started changing what I did. So though this wasn't technically a true gun course in the traditional sense, I pulled so much from the other students, above and beyond not just the books, but above and beyond, say, Samuel was doing, you were doing, Neil, Steph, others were doing with us in there. I pulled so much from the students that it was almost like they were teaching me too. Yeah. It was like I had a whole slew of professors.
I will tell you one of the biggest unintended things that has happened from running these in cohorts is that those cohorts of students become friends and they teach each other, and they have maintained those relationships after their cohort.
Yeah, in fact, one of them, Bill, I had him come down from, he's up in Canada, he came down from Canada to help me run a full week school in Montana for like 35, 37 people. Others we've met with either online or in person, and their relationships are growing to where now I'm going to either be going out and working with them, or they're going to be coming to us. DCS, Dave Laird, they're right here in Phoenix. Dave Laird, Dynamic Combative Solutions. They came to Grand Junction and ran several different NRA instructor courses for my instructors.
Wow.
Right? I mean, I'll be coming down here and teaching some stuff with them. We're tying in some other areas. There's other instructors literally around the country where the relationships grew. I found these were respectable people I truly want to tie in with, and that I'd pulled so much from them, and I felt like they pulled from me too, to where now it seems like we all really want to work together, and we're just beginning to grow and grow. And I think that's actually a benefit to all of us, because now I can sit there. I had a guy call me up the other day, one of my students. He says, hey, I'm moving to the Atlanta area and I need a really good instructor because you're probably not going to be in Atlanta very often. Who can I go to? And I was able to literally cherry pick and pull, here, from this right here, you need to go see these people.
Yeah.
And that is such a cool thing.
Now, we did ask you to actually do some writing. Difficult?
I like to write. So
Okay,
no.
good. That was an easy one for you. Some
no.
people, it's like pulling teeth.
No, I enjoy writing. In fact, I think every one of my reports, because you end up doing these book reports on these books you read, right? And
not like you're in junior high.
Not like you're in junior high.
How does it affect your teaching?
Guys and girls, this is kind of in depth. To where every one of my book reports, whether right or wrong, was literally 14, 15, 18, 19 pages, it seemed. And I mean, I was spending literally days, if not weeks, on these as I processed through. And it forced me to go deeper into the books. It forced me to go. In fact, one of my very best friends, Russell Anthony, he's actually one of our instructor defenders. It forced us, he and I, to sit down together and to sit there and go deeper into it than either one of us would have done before, because we had to process that information, regurgitate it in our own words, but at the same time allow it to affect us. I mean, there was times I'm sitting there tired, grinding my teeth, gutting through another 3 or 4 pages or even a couple paragraphs, and they're so in depth that by the time you're done, you feel mentally exhausted.
So one of the things we do is we don't just go, okay, write a paper and turn it into the professor. Now, how was it reading everyone else's papers? Because that's what we have everybody do, pass them around.
So in this, every time I would get somebody else's report, another student's report, right? And I would go through it. And at first I thought, oh, brother, I got to read their stuff too. And I'm reading through their stuff and I'm sitting there going, I've never thought of that.
Oh, gosh, they got that out of this?
What? Where did they get that? So I'd thumb back through the books and be like, huh? And then I read them like, ooh, why didn't I think of that, right? I thought I was pretty bright. I didn't even catch that. And even in a couple of different papers, I pulled a few things. I thought, wait a minute, I got to use this in my own courses. I've never even thought of this. So that too would help transform what I would do or add to, or even completely radically change where I was going with it somewhere else, simply because I wasn't really grading somebody else's paper. I was seeing their thought process and their interpretation of everything they were learning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what are the thoughts? What are your kind of, after having, so you're a graduate, you're done, you've got all your stuff. Would you recommend it?
Oh, 100%.
And what closing thoughts? What are your ideas here? What are you taking home and what are you going with?
So, I think you guys need to do another level.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I think it was a really, really, really good beginning. It wasn't kindergarten beginning, but it was a really good beginning.
Yeah.
But I think that though that felt like almost a master's level course, because that's
what we
kind of
designed. That's what we
It's
designed.
a master's level course, right? As I went through this and I talked to my father, who has so many different master's degrees, he's like, this is literally harder than many master's level courses. It still feels like there's more to go.
Oh, so much.
Okay? So
straight up when we started it, and I handed Samuel a stack of 12 books, and I was like, I want these, and he was like, dude, you can't make them do that.
5 was hard enough.
We pared it down to 5,
Okay.
that still leaves us a bunch.
So there's that. Here's the other takeaway from it. Once people realize how much work there is, because I went into this completely blind. I just signed up because I wanted to learn, right? So I went into it completely blind, didn't realize that. I think as word gets out, this is actually, I think, the most in-depth instructor certification course I've personally seen, by far.
Wow.
Given none, by far it is. At the same time, I think that because people are going to begin to hear that, because I think you're in cohort 2 now, right?
Yeah, we've just finished cohort 2, about to start cohort 3.
So as this begins to grow, I think it's going to become, I believe, the premier, known as the premier firearms training certification course in America. Wow. I'm convinced of that.
From your lips to God's ears.
It is. But I think that as people realize there's a lot of work involved in this, it's not just do the work and turn it in. This takes real thought. I think it could scare some folks off.
Yeah, it will.
And I honestly encourage you, if this scares you, you should probably do it, right? It should be like a good workout. You should be a little nervous before you start.
I don't know how this is going to go.
So this is something I think people need to do. It's a completely different paradigm in learning compared to the traditional instructor certification courses. And this is something I think all instructors literally need to do, because it will completely transform what you're doing. And if it doesn't completely transform what you're doing, it'll definitely improve it. And if it doesn't improve it and transform it, then, I don't mean this is kindly, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, if you get through the entire course and you go, I didn't get anything out of this is bullcrap, I'll just give you your money back. I mean, that's what the reality is.
Okay, I didn't get anything out of it.
I'll do it, that's fine, I get it. Yeah, and straight up, I mean, so I think somebody looks at that and they go, man, this isn't a cheap course, it's really expensive.
No.
But at the same time, how much, straight up, I make literally nothing from the instructor certification because how much time it takes us to invest in students.
So I was grumpy, right, at first at the cost of this, right? Because it was anywhere from $1,100 to $1,500 depending on how you paid for it, right? So I was a little grumpy about that, thinking $1,100, $1,500, right? By the time it was done, I don't mean this unkindly, you're crazy and I'd be driving this should be a $3,500, $5,000 course, minimum.
But of course, we couldn't do that because nobody paid it.
I agree, but understand something, the changes that it brought to my company, the way I teach, the way my instructors are teaching, has been so changing that it has, in return value, been worth 8, 10, 12 times already what we've been doing before. Because it was that transformational. So to me, I think this is something people need to gut through, whether they think it's hard or not, whether they think it's expensive or not, right? Whether you have 6 months to give to this, because it was 6 months. In fact, we got
6 months.
We got delayed a little bit because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, another 2 or 3 months in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was frustrating at times, going, oh my goodness. And I mean,
well, you got to take a weekend away because we do 2 days in person, and I mean, that in person is important time.
And for people around the country, right? I live 10 hours away from here, right? That's time, expense, everything else. By the time it's said and done, I mean, I spent multiple thousands of dollars, $5,000, $6,000 on this, right? And helping one of my instructors get through and everything. And I'll tell you, it was over and above and beyond, to the time of multiple times, worth the value done. And I believe, without any hesitation, this is the premier firearm safety course in America. And yet, at the same time, it's not really a gun course.
It's not really built, it's not, it's designed for firearms instructors, but it's not firearms centered.
Yeah.
So obviously, I want you guys, if you are anywhere that Defenders is teaching a class, you need to take it. It is cool stuff. Now, where that is and how that goes, go to his website. Things could be changing here before too long.
Well, yeah.
We'll find out about all that.
We'll find out. But for sure, the website's changing. It's actually in a process of change right now. We're revamping that thing like crazy. Thousands of dollars are getting spent. I'm pretty proud of where it's going to go. So, we'd love to have you.
And of course, I mean, if you want information on the ASP Instructors program, there's a link in the description, aspinstructors.com, and you can go through to that. We invite you to come and think about being a part of a cohort, and we would love to have you. But here's the cool part for me, is that the best part is the people who show up to the ASP Instructor certification don't just go through a course, they become my friends, because we spend so much time together. Yeah. And we get to see people's hearts, and we get to read their stuff, and we get to see, man, that's the kind of person I want to be around. So it's just been fun that it's drawn us closer together to become not just like acquaintances in the industry, but friends. So
Agreed.
Cool stuff, guys. And even if you don't choose that one, even if you go, nah, I don't want to train in Korea, he's a dork, whatever, go and take continual education. Yeah. Learn from this guy and go, hey, I'm going to commit to being the very best I can. And I think that you'll be better if you do. Bro, your kind words encourage me.
Thank you so much.